Yep, you read the title correctly. Bear with me, I'm about to go somewhere with this. First, ladies and gentlemen, this is G Coalition Brother number 17, aka the G Coalition Tactician, and I'm ready to tell you what's on my mind for a minute when it comes to professional wrestling. So, first things first. I'm about to attack what just happened when it comes to Wrestle Kingdom and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Before I do that, let me kind of give y'all a little bit of a background. I'm going to try not to go for 20, 30 minutes on this I because that's pretty much the whole time I got. So let me just freaking tell you. As a wrestling fan, I've been pro wrestling fan since 98, 99, 2000 at the very least, as far as when I first started. So I've been checking out this business for about 2.5 decades now. I've been a fan. I've enjoyed products from WWF, WWE, WCW a little bit here and there. Mostly watching back, mostly from either watching back and also like video games. I was there for the Attitude, or the end of the 90s, the Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era, all that stuff. Talk about Ruthless Aggression era. So I'm not coming into this from like a puro geek perspective. I'm coming into this as like a fan, like an American pro wrestling fan who got into the weeds, and like slowly my perspective ended up becoming more and more like over the years from the Ruthless Aggression era forward. My perspective got more and more based through the internet, got more and more influenced by like products like TNA, where I started seeing like the cruiserweights and the high flying type of wrestlers kind of be more innovative and kind of take more of the forefront. I became more into a lot of the work rate stuff, not just about the larger than life characters. Although I never fully like ditched that mindset that was important at the top of a card when it comes to pro wrestling. So I wasn't going to be the guy who says that every single guy who could do a 630 splash should be a world champion in WWE or even TNA. But I was definitely admiring those kinds of talents a lot. And also I kind of got disenchanted with a lot of what was going on with certain aspects of WWE's booking, namely the parts where Triple H and John Cena were constantly going over guys, even when it didn't make sense, or when the guys were more over, or when the other guy was possibly could have been more over than them, or could have been, or was a more interesting than them, or was a better star in certain ways, but all in all, I'm one of the people that didn't get chased out of the business by that particular problem, which we all know that was the beginning of the WWE's like complete ratings downfall, to where they felt like they were comfortable being able to do shit like that after the fact that the WCW and ECW were both pretty much out of business and were basically bought out in order to keep. Or basically, all they had left was just to be bought out, and so there was no more competition for the Vince McMahon, and everything pretty much went down from there. I could get that, and obviously, like the dirt sheets and all that, like ended up like being able to get more and more influence as more and more people became disenchanted with the WWE, and so the whole work rate and smaller guys or mid-sized guys that like being able to kind of take more and more of the forefront in the main event scene ended up becoming a thing. I was there pretty much through all of that. I was a TNA guy, was a staunch advocate for TNA and the things that they were doing until they got to the point where like they couldn't sustain any longer. Obviously, after they lost at the Aces and Eight storyline petered out, they lost AJ Styles, who was the heart and soul of the company, and they lost their freaking Spike TV deal. I still try to loyally keep up with Impact, with TNA, which literally became Impact as a company, and that's just the name of their show. But overall, they were no longer like in that solid position, and I knew it already, and there was no sense in denying that. In fact, AJ was actually the guy that got me into New Japan Pro Wrestling, because after he left TNA, a few months after he left TNA, all of a sudden, an old friend of mine posted me a link to a video showing footage of him debuting in New Japan as the newest member of this group called the Bullet Club. Now, obviously, like, okay, Bullet Club, that name actually sounds pretty cool. I like the iconography, the symbol, the shirt. And then I eventually kind of follow along and, like, kind of look, actually see, like, who are these guys? What are they about? And more I got into it, and more like, okay, I actually really like this gang. They're more like, they remind me of like that type of brotherhood of men, Toretto family from the Fast and the Furious type of appeal that I thought had been missing in pro wrestling, at least in the last for a long time, or at least like you weren't seeing that like portrayed in respected in a type of way that would could be considered like a lasting appeal type of thing. Basically, they were the Toretto family meets the NWO when I really kind of got into that appeal of that shit. And so I was hooked onto the Bullet Club, and especially because AJ Styles, who's everybody thinks he's supposed to be a babyface at all times, which yeah, he is a natural babyface, but he's damn good at carrying through as like a fucking guy who's part of a crew. Who's part of a crew as a heel also. And as a matter of fact, one of the like bones of contention, even back when I was like more of an IWC Smart kind of guy, even though I was never going to be that card carrying guy who would call myself an IWC Smart, because F that, was the fact that a lot of people back in TNA, back when AJ Styles was running in TNA, they always wanted it, they felt like he had to always be the champion just based on his high flying skills alone. And they didn't appreciate like the times where he was kind of putting the he was kind of carrying the mid card or put in stable situations or especially like the heel runs that he had with Christian's Coalition and Fortune. People looked at Christian and people looked at Ric Flair and said, "Oh, they're holding AJ Styles back. They're not letting AJ Styles be the maximum of his abilities." But to me, I saw something different. I saw Christian and I saw Rick. I saw these guys were giving him character. I saw these guys were giving him purpose. I saw these guys were allowing him to learn the finer points of the business to where it wasn't just all about the physicality. And I think he like this was the shit that he needed to learn to be more of a main event guy and to extend his career to survive longer when his high flying talents were no longer there for him. And obviously, we see what he's done. We see where he's at now. We see what he managed to do in New Japan. He came in like a house of fire. He refined his game to where he didn't need to do all the high flying because he could actually do more hard hitting stuff. He was crisp. He was smooth. He had a big fight feel to him. He was a top gun with the Bullet Club. They were able to take this guy and seamlessly place him in that position that Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, was supposed to be in, winning the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on the 1-year anniversary of Bullet Club. Even though it was actually his first match with New Japan in the Bullet Club, he was able to go into that position seamlessly. Because he's that damn good. And that's what gets me. This is kind of where I'm going from point A, my little introduction, to now point B. Me getting into the weeds when it comes to New Japan and the Bullet Club and how I got attracted to all of that during my like basically the last 8-9 years or so. And I look at that and I see this guy and I see that whole Bullet Club run with AJ Styles, and it was freaking amazing. And Mark, make no mistake about it was AJ Styles that got my attention, that probably got a lot of TNA people's attention, to start paving the road for everything that happened when it comes to New Japan even getting the idea that they could expand into the Western market. It was AJ who fucking did that shit. It was AJ who was able to bring guys from that heel faction Bullet Club over to North America to do Ring of Honor, to do American indie shows, and be tweeners and be baby faces because they were that popular, because it was that cool within the wrestling bubble to rep Bullet Club. It was AJ Styles that started that fucking train rolling, and I will not allow anybody to tell me different, because I know what I saw and I know what I was a fucking part of in that era. And it was because of AJ Styles, honestly, that I was perfectly willing to give the Elite a chance after they took over when he was out. But then I saw the developments. I saw what they ended up doing. And you know what? Congratulations. They took that ball that AJ created and they ran with it, but they ran with it for themselves. And I'll tell you right now, I'll give them credit for what they were actually able to accomplish with all of that. Okay, so you got the elite shirts you got all the elite merchandise with the Bullet Club logo formula that was selling on Hot Topic. You were able to create All In off of that bet that Dave Meltzer said, "Oh, I bet y'all can't sell out a full arena," and it ended up being the thing that ended up one of the things that ended up getting the attention of Tony Khan, and you were able to build a whole new number two wrestling company in the United States off of that. Congratulations. But you know what the problem was? They did it at the expense of the entire core concept and the united faction front that Bullet Club needed in terms of its function within New Japan. I saw that. Some of us fans, some of us real motherfucking fans saw that, and even the actual talent in New Japan saw that. And they had and I'm not sure if they can say they had a problem with it, but they took enough notice of it that they were commenting in shoot interviews that Bullet Club lost its fire under the leadership of Kenny Omega. And that is to say the least when it comes to the issues, when it comes to what they did and how it actually put Bullet Club in a position where if these guys leave, there's rebuilding to be done. They're the reason that shit happened. AJ Styles put Bullet Club in a position to thrive without him. These guys put Bullet Club in a position where, okay, they're making it thrive now, but as soon as they're gone, what the fuck do you got? That's what these niggas did. And if we get on that, that's why I'm going to tell you right now, everybody that was marking out in the beginning of AEW, when AEW was first launched, thinking that, oh, AEW, these guys, they're going to be the saviors of wrestling. They're going to be the ones who do everything right. They're going to be the ones who finally give Vince McMahon that punch in the face that he so rightfully deserves to wake him the fuck up and make the WWE, force him to make the WWE better again. I never trusted these motherfuckers because I saw what they did. They took this trust that New Japan gave them with this hot commodity, with this hot property, and yeah, they made waves with it. But they did so in a way that compromised the property to where its lasting power without them, New Japan had its work cut out to be able to rebuild it. They stretched it and abused it and took liberties with it for their own benefit as much as they could possibly get away with. And I saw that and I was not cool with it. So I was happy when they were kicked out the club. But at the same time, what next? And thank God Switchblade Jay White came in at the perfect time to be that guy, to rebuild Bullet Club, maybe not internationally, but at least in its home base. He rebuilt Bullet Club over the years to where you got that United Covenant Brotherhood front again. But what about the expansion plan? Well, all the benefits from that were stolen by the elite and Tony Khan in the formation of AEW. So I never trusted AEW either to truly be the proper number two that pro wrestling needs in every way, shape, or form that could actually push WWE to have to be better. I never trusted them to do that, nor did I ever trust them to do honest business with New Japan Pro Wrestling in the future in a way that would actually benefit New Japan. And what have I seen since the quote-unquote forbidden door opened and since the relationship between those two companies started? I have seen New Japan outsource championship after championship after championship to AEW, to where AEW has held at least one, sometimes two IWGP championships in their possession at least 60 to 70 fucking percent of the time that the company has existed. Yet at no point, besides a few token challenges, was the possibility ever posed that New Japan could hold on to an AEW title at any given point. Which brings me to the main focus of what I was mostly interested in seeing as far as what would be the results, as far as what would happen when it comes to Wrestle Kingdom 17. Because we started seeing a few interesting little developments when it comes to not only championships, but also New Japan and talent relations and crossover relationships and all of that shit. We started seeing WWE entering the picture, and we started seeing companies start to make another company that that AEW made a similar deal with and took advantage of in a similar deal, kind of start to put their foot down. Not even start to, like absolutely put their foot down. First off, we talk about the thing with WWE and New Japan. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, shortly after, basically they're basically on loan from Impact, or kind of joint promotion working with Impact and New Japan. And when they finally officially returned to Bullet Club. And during that time, Anderson ends up beating Tama Tonga for the Never Openweight Championship. But during his title reign as the Never Openweight Champion, the Machine Gun and Doc Gallows, they both go back to WWE as part of the angle of the OC versus the Judgment Day. They reform the OC with their fellow Bullet Club alum, AJ Styles, to back him up against Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, who fucking lost his mind and started playing ambitious with the Judgment Day. That's the angle work. According to the angle, of course, the WWE is working. And so Anderson, as a WWE talent, is also holding the Never Openweight Championship. And it ends up becoming a thing where a date that Anderson was supposed to defend the title against Tama's brother Hikuleo on ends up counteracting or clashing with the fact that WWE needed the OC at Crown Jewel. So the match ended up being canceled, or should I say ended up being postponed for a later date, with the storyline being that Anderson made a ridiculous claim that it wasn't booked in with his approval, and therefore he's not showing up. And New Japan put out a statement on their website saying they're going to strip him of the title if he doesn't show up. But then Hikuleo is able to beat somebody's ass and then cuts a promo saying he's going to chat, saying, no, don't strip Anderson of the title. I'm ready for him. Anytime he wants to come back, anytime he wants to stop running, come back and finish what you started where you came from. And so that the negotiations are able to continue from there, and the match ends up being set for December 14th, and he beats Hikuleo, and then Tama confronts him, and it's right in time for the lead up to Wrestle Kingdom. So there's one freaking title match, one of the 3 title matches between New Japan and outside talent. Another one, I don't even freaking need to go into super detail on all that, on the storyline with all that. We're talking about FTR, guys from AEW. They came in from WWE to AEW, ended up quickly having a little bit of a run with the with the AEW tag team titles, but that ended up not really going for very long. But this year, Tony Khan has this interesting little idea to where I don't need to book them. I don't need to book FTR as a straight tag team on my shows. They can go ahead and do singles matches, do trios matches, do all sorts of special stuff for me, special stuff on a on a occasional basis for me. But I'm going to go ahead and send them out. I'm going to go ahead and give them the Ring of Honor tag team titles after I just bought Ring of Honor. And then I'm going to send them out to AAA and New Japan and have them take their tag belts. So that ends up leading to to 2 interesting things. With AAA, number one, they end up getting set up for a match at... First out, they had this one freaking match at Rev Pro against Aussie Open for the IWGP tag titles, which ended up setting up a thing which was supposed to lead to a beef with Aussie Open and FTR that was going to end up clashing at Wrestle Kingdom. What actually did end up setting up was Aussie Open going all the way to the finals of the World Tag League, but across the room from them would be Chaos, Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi. Bishamon, surprising to me, although it shouldn't have been that surprising, considering we're talking about the Inoki era ending and New Japan favoring its homegrown guys, obviously, in both both in terms of promotion and in terms of country. So Bishamon ends up being the guys who end up going in and getting that title shot against FTR at Wrestle Kingdom. But before we even get to Wrestle Kingdom, let's go over to AAA, where FTR just freaking lost this AAA tag team titles. And one of the guys who beat them for the title, Dragon Lee, immediately announces that he's going to WWE. Now they end up I believe they end up vacating. Let me actually check this out on Wikipedia. Let me check this out so I can know 100% if they actually did vacate the belt. Yes, I'm searching in real time. I'm not pretending that I know everything. So I'm gonna look up Lucha Libre AAA, and then I'm gonna go on the site, and it's gonna show me who had the titles. But yeah, that whole situation is extremely interesting in the sense that interesting because we saw basically this is actually one of the things that made me realize, okay, New Japan, y'all gotta eventually put your foot down with this shit. Because AAA, another partner, was like, you know what? We're done with this garbage. We're done handing over our freaking championships. Oh, shoot. Jalisco. The original Dragon Lee. So basically both Dragon Lees. So basically Dragon Lee and Dragon Lee beat FTR for the titles, and the current Dragon Lee immediately took the microphone and said, I'm going to WWE, I'm doing this for Mexico, see y'all, I love you. And from there, they vacated the titles, and then AAA gives the announcement that they're done letting AEW talent hold their championships. And immediately I'm thinking to myself, this is the shit that New Japan should have done since last fucking year. When since last year, 2 years ago, whatever we're going to say, when you literally had a situation where across a couple of reigns, that where one of them, like, he got stripped of a title because he didn't, no, not even here. Across a couple of different reigns, Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, the guy that debuts in AEW and is pretty much earmarked to be the AEW World Champion, he gets to walk into New Japan at the exact same time and take the IWGP United States Championship and pretty much hold it hostage, where it ends up partially because of the COVID-19 pandemic, partially because Mox was too lazy to show up at a show even before the pandemic, and partially because New Japan doesn't really care about protecting itself. We had a situation where the IWGP United States Championship was sitting in there, sitting around collecting dust in the bedroom closet of Renee Young and Dean Ambrose, while Ambrose was running around with the AEW World Championship, which means he shouldn't have no business having time for another company's mid-card title. Yet all these freaking marks, all these AEW marks, all these so-called people who claim they love New Japan, but they actually love AEW and hate WWE more than they love New Japan, they didn't have any problem with AEW constantly taking titles, with Mox constantly holding that IWGP US title in his closet, until Kenta had to actually go over to Dynamite and allow Kenny Omega to team with him and leech off of the credibility of Bullet Club, which they already fucking abused in the first place, in order to even start the angle and start the process of bringing that title back to New Japan. Y'all didn't have a problem with that. But when Carl Anderson goes to WWE, when he's got a freaking never open weight championship, now all of a sudden it's, oh my God, why in the world does this outsider have our belt? Y'all should have realized that this was a problem this whole freaking time AEW did it, but now it's a problem when WWE does it. Which brings me to, which is why I completely applaud what AAA did. We're not letting these freaking outsiders come in and freaking take our belts anymore because it's not going to benefit us. And AAA has already seen that this shit doesn't benefit them. Remember when Kenny Omega was doing the belt collector gimmick at the same time as what I'm talking about with Mox? He took the Impact World title, he took the AAA World title, in addition to the AEW World title, which he beat Mox for. And what did it benefit either of those companies? What did it benefit Impact and what did it benefit AAA? Absolutely none. AAA, they didn't even... Impact, guess what happens? Kenny Omega shows up with the titles, with all the titles, because he's the belt collector. But he doesn't actually want to do any... He doesn't actually want to put anybody from Impact over. So what ends up happening is Christian beats him for that belt. Christian becomes the number one contender for both the AEW and Impact titles just so he can beat him for the Impact title. But then Christian, he's got to wait until freaking Bound for Glory to put over Josh Alexander. But in the meantime, Christian's not showing up with the belt on AEW. So it's basically sitting there collecting dust until it's time for Christian to lose. And as far as AAA, Kenny had a couple of different opportunities to freaking drop the belt. One to Andrade, who signed to both AAA and AEW on a joint promotion type of contract. You could have got him started hot in the beginning of his AEW run, but because you lost it to Christian, all of a sudden Tony Khan goes to Conan and says, no, we don't want Kenny to lose too many of his belts too fast, and Andrade gets undercut. Then you have the situation where I believe Vikingo was supposed to win the freaking title in some type of four-way situation. Kenny dipped out because of his injuries, saying he's going to come back soon and take care of it. But his injuries were so freaking bad, he had to take almost a whole year off. So it ended up being a situation where he had to be stripped of the title anyway. Nobody got over, and neither of these companies benefited from Omega holding the freaking belt. AAA finally realized, after seeing how long this shit was going on with FTR, after seeing the fact that they only now had an opportunity to freaking get the title back from FTR because Tony Khan didn't like them anymore because they took the CM Punk side instead of the Elite side in that ridiculous little shitwater versus piss juice pissing contest between two unprofessional, cancerous parties. I'm not maintaining either fucking side, either Punk or the Elite. They both had valid points against each other because they're both entitled. But enough about that. I don't want to freaking get into the weeds about that. The point is, they saw an opportunity now that Tony Khan was no longer high on FTR to freaking get their belt back. But at the same time, they wanted to make a statement that they're not going to let them freaking take the belts in. They're not handing AEW their titles anymore. So they ended up working with WWE, who's interested in signing Dragon Lee, and they allowed WWE to sign Dragon Lee, and they put all of that together, and they have WWE at that AAA show where Dragon Lee and Daryl Stigo beat FTR, and that's when they pulled that off. So you have these two situations. You have the Anderson thing, and then you have the Daryl Stigo thing. And that brings me to the third match, because I'm walking into Wrestle Kingdom thinking, okay, I know for a fact Anderson and FTR are dropping these belts back to the New Japan guys. Tama Tonga's getting back the Never Openweight title. Bishamon are getting the tag team titles. New Japan's cool there. They're getting two of their belts back. But then comes the belt that they could potentially be giving away. The third match, the Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, half of the double main event. Oh yeah, Kenny Omega. So while we're talking about the possibility of AEW, yeah, they lost the freaking tag belts, but now they could be taking the United States Championship again, and not just any AEW guys, Kenny. The same motherfucker the same motherfucker who turned Bullet Club into something that, honestly, you didn't know if it could survive after he left, after what he turned it into. This same guy, who him and the Bucks and his elite buddies, not only did they do what they did to Bullet Club, they stagnated every IWGP championship they touched in 2018 before they left. This same guy, who who basically made mockeries out of Impact and AAA when he held their world titles. This is the motherfucker that from AEW that they're possibly one to outsource that belt to. I'm looking at that situation and I'm saying to myself, absolutely under no circumstances do I want to see this shit happen. Under no circumstances do I want to see that shit. It doesn't, or like the from a business standpoint, it doesn't benefit New Japan at all to freaking allow Kenny Omega to freaking take that title from Will Ospreay in that situation. Number one, Ospreay's already got a freaking losing streak storyline with the fact that he can't beat Okada no matter how hard he tries. And they already, not only, really, with that situation, it's twice now. Because they had it during back the time when Ospreay was a junior heavyweight in Chaos, and of course Okada being the top guy. Of course Ospreay's going to have a losing streak against Okada time and time again in that situation. But then after he freaking not only goes heavyweight, but turns heel and forms the United Empire, he ends up, he beat him on the night that he turned, but every time they face off after that, he's right back in a losing streak where he can't beat Okada if his life depends on it. So now you have him against Kenny Omega, and now you have people in the comments section that are constantly saying, "Oh, Ospreay's going to win. This is going to be the beginning of him rising up and proving that he can actually do it, and this is going to be the beginning of him proving that okay, maybe he does have what it takes, and this is going to be the beginning of his ascent to actually really be that top man." But I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, what if it's not? What if this is Kenny Omega, who we know has politicked to take Will Ospreay to try to keep Will Ospreay out of AEW, and even when he couldn't do that, to make sure that Ospreay was basically presented as a mid-carder for the little time that he actually did work a few matches for them. How do we know that Kenny, and who has repeatedly every time he could get away with, has either himself directly or used Meltzer to shit talk both Will Ospreay and Jay White as inferior successors, inferior replacements, in order to put that narrative out in the IWC that New Japan ain't shit without Kenny Omega. Now you're gonna have this guy walk in, piss all over your company again, which is exactly what he did in these freaking interviews heading into the match. Still be treated as a babyface and still win. Give Ospreay yet another L to prove that he can't hang, that he can't win the big one, giving him the same storyline as Chris Jericho in the WWF in 2000 and 2001, except Ospreay has already turned heel, so where the fuck do you go from here? You really doing that? You're really gonna freaking do that? That did not sit well with me at all as a notion of what they could possibly do. And here's another freaking angle of things that I don't think a lot of people have considered. Actually, you know what? No, some people actually did consider it, and it's the same people who would relish in the idea of Ospreay just losing and losing and losing until he no longer has a viable career in the wrestling business. And it's not because of anything to do with wrestling that they want him to fall like that. It's because of it's because of a situation, a controversy that involved his former crew back in the UK, along with a certain female wrestler who's no longer in the business. The story goes that one of the guys in his crew did unthinkable things to that lady at one time. Another member of his crew, Ospreay's ex-girlfriend, actually kind of butted heads with her and maybe bullied her around a little bit in training sessions backstage. They weren't getting along. And as part of that, either Ospreay himself or somebody else in his crew went to these freaking promoters, not even to the promoters, went to the hosts of the venues that promoters were wanting to do shows at, and told them to tell the promoters that Will and his guys are not comfortable working in the same building as Pollyanna, so if you're going to book him or them, do not book her too. And obviously in that situation, the promoters chose Will, and that lady ended up losing one booking after another, and before she knew it, she was out of the wrestling scene. That story started circulating. She started making that allegation, claiming that she knows for a fact, claiming that, like, it's absolutely Will that's responsible for this. And as a result, you got these social justicians going up in arms, claiming that he's an apologist for the unthinkable and wanting his career deleted and wanting his career destroyed. The same way that he did hers, because they think that he did this and that it's what would be justice. But here's the problem. A lot of these same people are also a lot of the same people who actually believe that Omega and the Elite are the saviors of professional wrestling. Now, I've already talked about my problems with the shit that Omega and the Elite did in terms of how it weakened Bullet Club as a full cohesive brand, as a full cohesive unit, and the stagnated New Japan's championships, and gave people who prior to the Elite's run were all in on New Japan and Bullet Club and everything for the sake of what they were for the sake of the products themselves, but have now been convinced that all of it is being propped up by Kenny Omega, and without Kenny Omega and his boys, this shit is nothing. I've already talked about that part of why I have a problem with it. How about the other part? The actual, like, okay, how does it stack up for all these social justicians who want to go after Ospreay? How does Omega and his boys and the shit and the people that they propped up, how do they stack up in comparison? Let's see. Oh, who did you guys replace Adam Cole with in Bullet Club when he went back to WWE and started the Undisputed Era? Oh yeah, Party Marty, the well-reputed nonce who ended up having to be rooted out the business after it came out that he's macking on 16-year-old drunk girls who are wrestling students at freaking nightclubs. Who did y'all prop up and have another one of your fucking guys actually do a whole internet story on being the Elite doing the job for one of his weirdo gimmicks? Specifically the King of Donkstyle. Oh, wait, isn't that Joey Ryan? The fucking pervert who used the guise of both the way the wrestling, both the performative nature of the wrestling business and the guise of virtue signaling and wokeness in order to get away both on and off screen with inappropriately touching and groping every single man, woman, and hopefully not one child that he could get his hands on and share a locker room with? Including Cody's own wife, among other people, Scarlett Bordeaux, who ended up having another freaking situation where another one of Kenny's associates tried to freaking do shit with her that she didn't want, and that's why she left Impact. I'm talking about Don Callis. So we're getting into the freaking weeds here. I've mentioned Marty Scurll, I've mentioned Joey Ryan, and I even just made mention of Don Callis. These are people who the Elite have propped up in the wrestling scene. Now, how about the fact that Chasen Rance, a convicted sex offender, registered convicted pedophile, has Kenny Omega doing business with him, featuring him at Community Effort Orlando shows, actually borrowing his ring for those shows. Oh, and not to mention booking his girlfriend in AEW, if I'm hearing this correctly. So we're talking, and this is shit that's all either been admitted or confirmed. For them, well, the Callis part, I'm not 100% sure if it's confirmed, but all three of the other guys, it's either been admitted or confirmed. So this is not allegations and rumors that have been countered by Ospreay and his camp. In fact, let me tell you how Ospreay freaking countered this shit when it comes to the Swords of Essex thing. Ospreay has contended online that he had no idea what any of this shit that Pollyanna's talking about. In fact, he's contending that she got herself shit canned from the business by being a bully in her own right to where none of the other girls liked her. So as she said when it comes to that situation, but y'all want to immediately assume that Will is the guilty, is guilty by association that his crew are the ones who did every fucking thing, and y'all want to freaking destroy his career, but y'all will take a blind eye to the shit that Kenny and the Bucks have helped have pushed, the guys that Kenny and the Bucks have pushed forward, and the shit that they have been involved with, confirmed or admitted. As a matter of fact, some of y'all freaking marveled at that line that Don Callis said, when Kenny left New Japan, God cried. Y'all marveled at that shit. Tell me Scott Wainwright is standing anywhere near the United Empire and y'all are flipping your fucking shit. So from that standpoint, you have those people, those moral hypocrites who are going to try to take a stance on quote unquote justice, but they're not applying it either evenly or proportionately. They want to go after the guys who had who had alleged horrible conduct towards one person. But they'll take a blind eye to the guys who have confirmed or admitted horrible conduct towards multiple people. They want to overlook all the sketchy shit that's involved with Omega and his camp, but Ospreay's old camp is reason enough for them to hate him for life and want him to have no success ever. Those people get satisfied by seeing Kenny Omega beat Will Ospreay. And that's another fucking part of it that absolutely disgusts me. So from the wrestling business standpoint, it doesn't help anybody. AEW gets more and more freaking title that they don't need. They already have way too many as it is. New Japan once again undercuts Will Ospreay and puts him in a situation where he is a perpetual big match failure, a perpetual big match loser, to the point where the next time you try to present this man in a quote-unquote match of the century type of situation, I have less and less reason to care about it because I'm thinking he's going to care about it because I know he's going to lose. So you can give me all the epic sequences you want. You can give me all the 30 to 40 minute, this is awesome, fight forever type of fucking dream match, flips and kicks and counters and finishers and false finishers and this, that, and the third. You can give me all of that until the cows come home. If I have no reason to believe that this guy is ever going to win in these situations, I don't care. Because it's completely predictable and it's completely one-sided, and it's also a complete crying shame because I think this guy, at least within the context of what New Japan is damn good and deserves to get that ball at least once or twice in his career. But against certain guys, he's never ever going to get it. So why do I need to care when it comes to him? That was my mindset going in when it came to that, when it came to his career, when it came to New Japan. I just saw AAA pretty much say, we're not outsourcing our titles to AEW anymore. Why the fuck am I going to care about New Japan if they continue to do so? If they don't have enough balls to pretty much say, at least for now, at least for this small period of time, let us have all our titles on our, not even let us, we're going to make sure that all of our titles are in our possession by the end of this Wrestle Kingdom. And maybe a few months down the line, we can talk about letting AEW guys or even WWE guys get another freaking go at it, because we see that they're open to doing business with both companies now. But at this point, it's like, nah, we need to get all our titles back. We need to kind of show the strength of our company in our new era. They're not willing, are they going to be willing to do that? Are they going to be willing to show that strength? Are they going to be willing to stand up and say, hey, we need our shit back? Are they going to be willing to actually do the thing necessary to actually give a little bit of hope in the character of Will Ospreay, that he's actually capable of actually winning these damn big fights? Are they going to show strength? Are they going to do it? Or are they going to capitulate, put this man in a situation where you never get the vibe he's going to win? So therefore, I don't care how many epic sequences he does, I'm just waiting for him to take the L. So why the fuck do I care? And you're outsourcing your championships to a company that has already proven, their leadership has already proven that they're willing to take advantage of you since before they even had their own company. But you're going to continue outsourcing your championships to them. And their fans are not going to have a fucking problem with it. And their fans are also not going to have a problem with one of your top guys being treated as a scrub and as a loser because they hypocritically hate him over allegations involving his camp. But the guys who are beating him, they're completely fine with all the shadiness that goes on in their camps. And this is the kind of shit that you want to actually capitulate to, that you want to put yourself underneath as a company, as New Japan Pro Wrestling. That was what I was looking at. And that's what had me saying, nah, I cannot co-sign Kenny Omega beating Will Ospreay and taking the IWGP United States Championship back to AEW again. And yet, that is exactly when I wake up and I find out that New Japan did. They took back the titles I knew for a fact they were going to take back. Okay, that's all well and good. But they handed Kenny the United States Championship and made Ospreay the perennial loser. And in doing so, they showed me they are weak. They showed me they don't believe in themselves. New Japan Pro Wrestling does not believe in itself, does not have a vision for its own future, believes that they need AEW inherently in order to even do anything. And therefore, in my humble opinion, they're not their own company. They're not even their own brand anymore. I don't even believe in New Japan Pro Wrestling as its own company anymore because evidently it doesn't believe in itself. The way now, what New Japan has done is they put themselves in terms of anything, in terms of their Western hopes, in terms of their hopes for Western expansion. It's all now at the mercy of Tony Khan and Kenny Omega and the Elite and their social justicians and the AEW cult and the people who have the wrong ideas for what pro wrestling needs in order to move forward. These are the people that New Japan has now put themselves in a position, has now made it abundantly 100% clear that they will be perpetually beholden to going forward in the future in terms of what they want to do in terms of coming over to America. And at this point in the ball game, you've just cemented yourself. You no longer have your own soul as a company. You are now the Japanese subsidiary of All Elite Wrestling. New Japan is no longer its own fucking company. And therefore, knowing that, seeing that, I no longer have all the investment I had in this company, all the love I had, and all the patience that I had that I wanted to see. Okay, are y'all gonna do something special with these guys? With Ospreay, with Jay White, is Bullet Club ever gonna have a Wrestle Kingdom where they're actually successful? All of that, and are you actually going to? And hell, I'm talking about the foreign guys who made a home in New Japan, who are 100% with New Japan, at their core. How about building up some of the newer freaking Japanese guys to the point where they can be just as interesting and they can be just as compelling as Okada was when he was rising, as Tanahashi was when he was rising, as Jay and Ospreay are right now. I'm not seeing any reason to have hope for the future of this company when they have clearly proven that they're perfectly content being AEW's second banana. And seeing that, this is the last bit of constant attention that I'm willing to give New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is it. I'm officially 100% giving up on New Japan because New Japan doesn't believe in itself. So why in the blue fuck should I? This is already longer than I wanted it to go. I wanted to keep it to 30, 35, maybe 37 minutes, but I'm already stretching 50. And at this point in the ball game, I've said everything that needs to be said about the multiple different ways that New Japan made the wrong decision to the point where I can no longer support them. Even in terms of like interest, even in terms of taking interest. I unsubscribed from New Japan World on YouTube and on the Twitter channel that y'all probably don't even know I have. Actually, I'm not going to point to it because I want to kind of keep it its own thing, separate from this. But I'm no longer going to be paying attention to New Japan going forward after this. If shit about them that ends up being interesting ends up happening across my screen, okay, I guess I'll kind of check it out for a little bit, but I'm not going to fucking get invested the way that I did when AJ showed up. I'm done with that. Because I know this company has no true faith in its own being, in its own soul. Therefore, I'm done. I'm going to keep talking wrestling, but I'm going to keep my shit stateside. In terms of, like, my main interests. Because at this point, New Japan's done.